People need an income that's guaranteed to them.
If you lose money to taxes, you're never getting that money back.
You need to get serious about adding some lower risk.
Greed. I don't like greed.
The thing to be afraid of, honestly, is the thing that we're not thinking of, the black swan event.
There's a tsunami coming. Bye.
Welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Suze Rivers.
Just coffee talk.
There's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? You have to stay focused.
A fun and informative look at the issues of wealth, retirement, and protecting your life savings.
These advisors out there that were trained to sell, and have all these fees, they don't want to talk about this product, so they make less money.
And now, Retirement Coffee Talk with Suze Rivers.
Hello again, and welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Suze Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. My name is Randy Cook. Each week, Suze and I sit down here and talk through some of the issues out there that are financially motivating, hopefully, for you, and maybe confusing for you, because there's an awful lot going on with the green and the red arrows, and the Fed, and the interest rates, and the election, and boy, there's a lot to talk about, certainly in this first segment. Suze, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's been busy, and after the election, it's been busier. But we have had some fun during this time period. We took the kiddos to the Florida-Georgia game in Jacksonville, and I have not been to a game in a very long time. Shameful on me, since I'm an alumni for University of Florida. But this was the kids' first game, and somebody gave us some really nice tickets. And I thought it was a prank, because when we walked in, my daughter and I were headed to the bathroom, and my daughter said, "Mom, we're all the Gator fans." And I'm like, huh. I'm like, everybody's wearing those shirts, the other shirts, the Bulldogs. And I went, oh my gosh. Yep. The gentleman who gave us these tickets, he's a diehard
Georgia fan.
Yep. And I sent a video. I was like, I don't see any orange and blue here. And we laughed. So I was like, great, this is going to be interesting. But luckily, we were sitting around other families and lots of kids, so it went nicely. But I will say we exited right before the end of the third quarter, because I started hearing some gruffling and some louder noises, because we were doing good.
Game was tied at about that point, and it all kind of fell apart in the last 5 minutes. Yeah,
I knew it was coming, so I was like, let's exit, kids. They're like, okay, we're done. But this had a blast, so that was something fun we did.
Well, I can feel your pain, because I've been to that game once, and I got my tickets from a Florida fan, and I'm a Georgia fan, so I was sitting in the Florida section, and that was really, God, that day was cold. It was windy, it was cold, it was low 50s, and I had shorts on. I had just played golf, and I froze, so it was nuts. Yeah. But anyway, okay, so that was, I don't know if that was an upset or it was a surprise, but when we sit here and talk about what happened at the election, that was a bit, I don't know if it was a surprise as much as the amount, the number that came in, that Trump did so well across the country and winning all 7 swing states. That was a bit of a surprise for me.
That was a surprise for me. Like, I wasn't sure about Pennsylvania and a few others, but I went, holy cow. So you're right. That was quite a bit of a surprise. But we are moving on. Mr. President-elect is making his moves, and whether you like it or not, your retirement planning goes on.
Yes,
right?
It does. And that's a good point, is now that we know who's going to be in office, what does this do for us? How does this change things? You and I have been talking a lot about the Trump tax laws that he put into effect in 2017. They sunset in December of next year. Yep. And so now we've got to figure that they're going to continue on. He'll reenact those things.
I would think so, because that's been a big part of his conversation. You know, we have been worried for a very long time now, come January 1st, 2026, that everybody's standard deductions were getting cut to half and tax brackets were going up.
Right.
And so I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that President-elect is talking about keeping standard deductions the same and maybe not even raising the marginal tax bracket. So there has been a huge rush across the country to roll IRAs to a Roth IRA. And here's the cool part. If he does not change anything and everything stays the way it is, that means we have more time to do it, because it's not guaranteed it's going to stay like that, right? Because we got a lot of debt. So we have some time on our side. So that's positive movement for taxpayers that are in retirement or nearing retirement that said, I wish I would have done this sooner. So I think we have some time. So we'll see here.
So the other things that we've been talking about is at this point, late in the campaign, you listen to what they promise. And some of the things that he's talked about definitely affect our audience. Number one, he said he wants to eliminate taxes on Social Security, and he wants to lower capital gains tax from 20 to 15%. So those would be things that help our listeners. And the fact that he has control of the Senate and very well might get control of the House, he's got pretty much a clear runway to put something out there and get it approved. So these things might actually happen.
Well, lowering capital gains from that 20 to 15 would be huge, right? It would be so huge, especially for people like Warren Buffett, where only their income's coming from those capital gain dollars, right? His income.
Right.
And so many other people who are selling homes, and you're retired, and you have assets you're selling in those brokerage accounts, and depending on where your income's at and how much you sell, could really stabilize your taxes in the future. And then if you're collecting Social Security, for them to just say, hey, we're not going to pay taxes on Social Security anymore, that would be amazing, but I don't know what the plan is, and I do worry about that plan. But to come out and say that out loud, there has got to be something behind the scenes that we do not know yet to make that happen. And or I would say lowering the taxes a half would be great, or giving a tax credit. So we'll see what happens there. We just want to make sure the Social Security Trust Fund does not run out, because we're already having issues with Social Security Trust Fund in 2033. Deduction, your benefits might be coming down 20%. So if you stop taxing Social Security, it can only get worse, right? So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. These are things that these are campaign promises. You don't know what, is it bluster? Is it getting attention? Is it actually going to happen? We will wait and see.
And don't forget corporations, Randy, So here's the good news. If he lowers corporate taxes down, which is his plan, that just means earnings are going to look better. That means our prices on our goods likely won't go up, right? Unless tariffs really attack us. That's a whole different story.
Right.
So there's positive momentum there. And the goal is to let the individual taxpayer and let these corporations benefit so it can come back and Wall Street can flourish. The economy can flourish. So that's the thinking behind it, whether it works or not. But history does say, Randy, and you can back me up on this, that when taxes are down, people go out and spend more. When interest rates are down, corporations can get more loans to continue to grow. When corporations pay lower taxes, everybody wins. So we'll see what happens, right?
So the other thing that we can mention, which will bring us into our interest rate discussion here, is Trump has talked a lot about tariffs during the campaign, saying this is how he's going to pay for things. And if he puts these tariffs in place, heavy on China, some on others, the financial experts, as they look at this, and I've seen lots of articles, and Wall Street says, well, enjoy the little bump while it's here, because when the policies start, this could change things. They believe that tariffs would probably move our prices up on some goods and could move inflation up about 1%. So what does that do to the Fed? The Fed right now has their schedule as they lower interest rates. They just did it, another 0.25%.
Right.
If inflation goes up, they're either going to pause or they could even raise interest rates again. What does that do on Wall Street? So there's some uncertainty out there right now.
Yeah, it depends what happens with the tariffs at the end of the day. Globally, it's not people are not going to be happy, but in the United States we might be happy because it's bringing dollars into our country. But it could go backwards on us as well, because prices could increase, right, for the consumer, and like you said, inflation could rise and come back and hit us, which is tough because we're trying to lower these interest rates. Historically, it helps the economy. People can buy homes and cars at a better rate. And corporations, when they're refinancing their debt, they can do it at a lower rate also, which is huge. So I'd be very curious to see how the tariffs work out for us. As long as they do it methodically and they have a very structured, well-oiled plan and they do it slowly, it could be a big benefit. And of course, Trump is not going to do it unless there is a serious benefit, right? I just do worry about inflation and it coming back and prices going up on things, right?
So there is a Trump effect already. A couple of things have taken place. Companies like Intel and Microsoft and Apple and Nike have a lot of business going on right now in China. And so they are starting to move their productions out of China because they don't want these tariffs. And they're moving some of these production facilities over to India, to Vietnam, and to Mexico. So that's certainly an effect right now of the election. And then the other one is what we call the Trump bump. Last time when Trump was elected, the market went up for a series of a couple of months, up until the middle of March, and the S&P went up about 11% from November until March. So we saw a huge bump the first day, right after the election, of over 1,000 points. So we'll have to see. Does that? I mean, you said at the beginning of the show that people are now starting to go, okay, this is over. Now I can make a decision. Now I can move forward. Do you think that? I mean, we've had 2023 was up 20%. 2024 will probably be up over 20%. To have 3 years in a row of up 20% is very, very unusual.
Yes, very unusual.
Yet we have this, force of Trump that is moving the markets. They like his deregulation. They like his tax plan. They like his corporate plans, all of these things. So Wall Street and Trump go together like hand in glove.
They do.
Does that mean 2025 might be another really good year?
I always say past performance is not indicative of future results. I think we have a big part of our country that's not happy and a little bit bigger part of the country that is super happy. There's a lot of noise out there and everybody's hopeful. I have talked to so many clients and they're all like, okay, I feel like I can breathe again. I'm like, okay, so you guys are feeling great about it. They're like, yes, I feel like we have a little bit more steam behind us, a little bit more control. So the consensus has been very positive in my office so far. So I will tell you, hope floats and Wall Street likes when consumer confidence is on the rise. But not all consumer confidence is on the rise. So we will see how this really boils down in the future. But when we wrap it into the retirement planning, here's the deal. It shouldn't matter what direction the market's going because you should know your plan so well that you know where your income's coming from, you know what investment strategies you have, and if the market goes down, it doesn't put a dent in your plan. It's not going to change the trajectory down the road. And so this is why we do these written plans, because before the election, a lot of people are like, Sharice, I am not worried because we have a plan and I can't control who's going to be the next president. I'm just happy that I have this income plan and we adjust it. And if something changes here in the election and markets go down, we just start pulling money from different buckets. And that is what retirement planning is all about. That's what holistic planning is all about. And the world does not revolve around the election, even though it has recently. But now, let's make peace. Let's move forward and let's do what we have to do for our own personal economy and let's hope everything else works out.
Yeah, unplug from the politics for a while. I mean, I've still got a bunch of shows on my DVR that I'm watching and then I get the political commercial. I go, no, this is why I'm here. I don't want these anymore. So, let's all kind of unplug from this and just kind of take a deep breath. The other story that happened over the last week or so is the Fed decided to lower interest rates again by a quarter point. And as we've said, these rates are falling like a feather. They're not falling like a rock. And if, in fact, the tariffs do move up inflation and the Fed kinds of pauses or even raises, Sharice, this gives our retirement planners, the people who are seeing you, a little extra time now probably to take advantage of some of these higher rates.
Yes, it is. When rates change, investment strategies change. And so if rates are falling like a feather, much slower, as I did expect, it maintains the stability of some of those short-term fixed rates that are out there. So, for example, we have a 5-year fixed rate that is still guaranteed at 5.3% for 5 years, 5.3, 5.3, 5.3. Just like the CDs out there, they're maintaining. You can get a 1 or 2 year CD between 4.5% and 5% still. And so when rates come down, we'll see those CDs and these fixed rates drop really fast, but I haven't seen big moves and shifts. So that's the good news. but I think we're going to start seeing it. I think it's all baked in at this point, because if rates go down again, I think we'll start to see a much larger shift. And it's a possibility rates could go down another 25 basis points, right? Even if they stay stable, we'll see some of these fixed rates start to come down because they're protecting for the what if factor. So we'll see what happens, but interest rates are ever evolving, and there's different investments you can take advantage of when it's going down. There's different investments you can take advantage of when it's going up. Like, for example, we offer these 1-year notes, Randy, and it says if the market goes up, hey, we can make somewhere around 11% or so. If the market goes down, we don't lose, right? And they're 1-year commitments. People love those notes. So, you take advantage of these rate swings, and some of those notes start to really shine and offer more. And sometimes they offer less depending on the interest rate, right? Direction.
If you were listening to this show 3 years ago and Charisse and I were talking about interest rates, we'd be talking about 1% rates or less than 1%. And now we're talking about 4 and 5% rates. You'd be banging down the door 3 years ago. And why are you not banging down the door now? Because, this could be a time that goes away. And it's an opportunity. There's a window of opportunity here to see Charisse. Even if you're 5 years from retirement, 3 years from retirement, come on in. Let's get a real good look at your retirement, what you've done to save, what that means for you in income, and how can we maybe guarantee some of these income streams for you in your retirement years. These rates could really help out. Give us a look on our website, which is zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. There's a big gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. You click on that, and we'll ask you to put in a little information, and then we'll call you and get a date on a calendar. Or you can bypass all that and just give us a call right now. 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680. Well, we've talked about this story in the past, the great wealth transfer. All these baby boomers and their parents moving money down to their kids and their grandkids. They call it the great wealth transfer. It is $84 trillion.
Yeah, wow.
You would think that a lot of people are excited about that, but there's one group that's not. And I'll tell you who that group is and what the problem is coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, you can find us, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. Online, you can find us. You can go to Spotify or you can go to Apple iTunes and you can get our podcast there. If you use our website, you hit the media tab there, and there's lots to go through, lots of ways to access information about retirement on Retirement Coffee Talk. So check that out today. All right, so we talked about the great wealth transfer. Over the next 20 years, about $84 trillion is going to be passed down to the next generation. A lot of people would be excited about getting an inheritance, but there's a group of people that are not. And that group is, shockingly, financial advisors. There's a new study out there that says when a spouse passes away and the money passes down, that advisor loses that client 22% of the time. When both parents are gone and the money goes down to the children, advisors lose that client 42% of the time. And many people believe that those numbers are much higher.
I will tell you something, Randy. I had a client come in and tell me something about what her son said. And I was shocked. And she was shocked when she heard it. They're in their 30s, and the son came to the mom and said, there's a big conversation out there that, us young people, they feel like they don't have to save as much and they can continue to spend because the wealth that they're going to receive when their parents pass away. And I looked at her and I went, oh my gosh, that's what they're thinking. She's like, she said he was part of this group and this is what they're talking about. And they were excited about, their wealth they were going to get. And so they feel like they can just, glide right on by. And she's like, I'm just embarrassed to even tell you that, my son said that and he's thinking the same thing. And I went, oh dear, like I didn't know that was the thinking out there. And you're right. What's going to happen is baby boomers, let's go back to the Great Generation. The Great Generation did not save a whole lot of money in IRAs and 401ks. So the monies that were passed down to the baby boomers were brokerage accounts, real estate, and some IRAs, right? So it wasn't a big hit because the step up in the cost basis is more tax efficient for the people inheriting those dollars from the great generation. But now the baby boomers, they saved the greatest part of their wealth inside these retirement accounts. And now those retirement accounts are going to be passed on to these younger families, and they're looking for the wealth. And what's going to happen is if mom and dad pass down $1 million, now taxes are still reasonably high, even though we're in some of the lowest marginal tax rates. When it comes to your IRAs is what I'm talking about. $1 million, the beneficiaries really only get like $650,000 of that.
And what's terrible is they don't care. They don't care about those taxes. Mom and dad are rolling over in their graves saying, you just gave $400,000 to the government, but they don't care because they're getting $600,000. And
they'll cash it out. A lot of them are going to cash it out right away, and they're going to go buy the things. I've already seen it happen. Like I'm not happy with what I'm seeing when clients are passing away and I'm seeing the younger generation inherit this money. I'm just, some of these, the boomers are so organized and well put together and had a plan. And I'm watching these kids spend the money, pay all the taxes in 1 year, spend the money on cars and doing this and that. And it's frustrating to watch because I know mom and dad didn't want that. They wanted their monies to be lasting for their entire lives and maybe pass to the next generation. So on top of the problem is that all the IRAs that were saved from the baby boomers, it used to not be taxed in this method, just so you know. The stretch IRA is gone. The government got rid of the stretch IRA. So a lot of times the younger generations would just take some income out every month or every year, and it would keep going and going and going, where you didn't have to pay that entire tax bill, Randy. But now you're having to pay this entire tax bill on these retirement accounts that your parents saved for 40 years of their life, over 10 years. And then we're seeing some of them cash it out right away. So we're seeing a lost legacy going to the government, right? We got to get our debt down somehow. And so they came after the boomers when they pass away, because they know their kids are going to spend that money and cash it all out. And they're getting Uncle Sam's getting their money right away. So I don't believe that that's the way it should be. And unfortunately, the baby boomers work so hard. Now they got to work even harder to try to get that money to their kids tax-free. So more of that legacy goes to the kids and not to Uncle Sam. So I don't know. It's a complete mess, just so you know. And things have changed. There's always changes. This is one of the changes I didn't like. I would like those kiddos, adult kids, to be able to stretch those IRAs for the rest of their lives and not have to pay the taxes over the first 10 years. But that's not where we're at anymore. And so now the baby boomers, I feel like you got to work even harder after all the years you have worked hard.
And this is usually the case when people don't have a good relationship with a financial advisor and a tax professional, and they aren't informed about how this goes. All they do is they look at what's coming their way. They don't look at what the taxes are, and probably aren't really looking at mom and dad's wishes as they move into this money. So if people are inheriting money, you would think that they and their financial advisor would be happy about that. But at the same time, people get the money and then they go their separate ways. And so having that kind of a person in your life, Charisse, to say, hey, I think there's probably some money coming my way. How can I best use this, not only for me, but to make this as a legacy for the rest of my family for the rest of their lives?
Yeah, we're doing a massive amount of tax planning right now for our clients and doing conversions from IRAs to rollovers. We're doing donor advised funds so people can get the write-offs now. We probably got a good 6 years of the better standard deduction for the write-off and keeping taxes at bay, which is great news. And so people are going to continue doing this because I'm hearing it over and over again. Our clients are worried about their kids and the big tax bill on the horizon, and it could get worse, right? Yeah. Having a financial advisor with that kind of resource for the here and now, your tax plan now, and the later, your your estate, or when one spouse passes, if you start tax planning now and creating those strategies, I'm not talking about going to an accountant and them doing your bookkeeping. I'm talking about a real tax plan where the build out is showing, okay, if you pass away, taxes aren't going to go up, because right now when one spouse passes away, taxes go up on average 9 out of 10 times. And then it doesn't stop there. The later is the estate planning to the kiddos and the penalty and taxes that they have to deal with. So making sure you have that holistic retirement planner in your life is key. Taxes are never going to go away, and planning for it now, just knowing where you're at and if you should or shouldn't, you get to make that decision, is going to give you confidence about the future for your children and your surviving spouses.
Well, financial planning, retirement planning isn't just about investments. It's also about taxes. It's also about estate planning. There's a lot of different things to talk about, and we can talk about them with you. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website. We offer you a complimentary retirement consultation. Really, that's a big word for a meeting. Let's sit down and talk about your retirement. 833-368-3680 or 833-368-3680 or ZinniaWealth.com. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Sharice is very busy right now with RMDs. What are RMDs? And there's also a tax strategy, the number one question of 2024 that people are coming in with as they get ready for retirement. What is that question, and how does it affect you? That is coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Ritters at Zinnia Wealth. Online, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. You can also check out our podcast if you're listening to the show and you got to get out of the car. I get it. All you have to do is listen on your own time. You can go to iTunes or Spotify or use our website as well. It's all right there at ZinniaWealth.com. All right, so busy time of the year for you, fourth quarter, and as we move our way through November and into December, that is the time for RMDs. What is an RMD? Sharice, tell me what's going on right now. What is probably the number one thing on your list right now of figuring out? A lot of math going on right now, isn't there?
There really is. RMD, required minimum distributions. If you have a 401k, IRA, 403b, TSP, you name it, anything you saved in a retirement plan, well, when you turn a very special age, you have to pull money out and a certain percentage out. So let's talk about the rules and the nuts and bolts of these required minimum distributions. Because rules have changed over the last few years. So I know you all are talking at the water cooler, and some of you are like, well, when do we have to collect this RMD? Is it 70 and a half? Is it 72, 73, 75? And one person at that water cooler is probably saying, oh yeah, it's like 75. And somebody's like, no, you got to take it at 70 and a half, because there's a lot of confusion out there because it's changed so many times over the last few years. So let's start with the basics. What age do you have to take RMDs now based off the Secure Act 2.0 rules? And so if you were born in 1950, hey, listen, you're taking it at age 72. If you were born between 1951 and 1959, you get to take it at 73. And anybody who's taken it over 1960, that would be 75. So if you're born after 1960, you take it at 75. Between 1951 and 1959, you take it at 73, and there you have it. So there are the rules. So share that at the water cooler. I had a client come in asking, okay, I'm confused. Okay, so this is why we're talking about this. RMDs, on top of that, you have to take a percentage out of your retirement accounts, out of all of them, okay? And or what you can do is take the grand total of that number and take it all out of one if you wanted to. I always say, don't take the saddle off the horse that's winning the race. So if you have an exchange traded fund that made 20% this year, you have an annuity that made 10, and you had a CD that made 5, pull it from the CD. Let the other stuff continue to grow, right? So the percentage, Randy, that you have to pull out is about 3.78%. Okay. Right. So if you had $1 million, you can calculate that 3.78% pretty easily. There's actually a real divisor number, and we go through that with our clients when they come in, because some people want to know, what bucket should I pull it from, Sharice? And we already kind of have that all dived into. So I will tell you this much, Randy. I was doing a class in the Villages a few days ago, and a lady said, I don't understand this RMD thing. And so we talk about that in our classes. And she was more concerned, like, why do I have to pull this out? And why is the percentage at 3.78%? Because she's turning 73. And she said, and for how long do I have to do this? And you have to do this for the rest of your lives. And one of my charts in the class, it shows, hey, by the time you're in your 80s, you're pulling out 8%. She's like, wait a minute, I have to pull out 8% by the time I'm in my 80s? And I said, yes. So I was doing a tax planning class. And she went, but if my portfolio doubles, that means I'm taking 8% of whatever my portfolio doubles. I'm like, exactly. Like she already beat me to the chase. Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about that. So when you first have to take an RMD, it's under 4%, just by a hair. But every year you get older, that percentage goes up every year, and it never goes away, and it gets higher and higher and higher. So let's say you're 73 today, and you have $1 million. And let's say your money doubles in 10 years. I mean, you're being moderately aggressive, right? Moderate zone, depending on our 10-year period, of course. And let's say it doubles to $2 million. If you have to take 8% of $2 million, that's $160,000. Yeah. So I say, well, what if you're married, filing jointly, and you have $50,000 in Social Security? Because if you have $1 million in IRA and retirement accounts, you probably have somewhere around $50,000 in Social Security between two people. So you add the $160,000 and the $50,000, you're at $210,000. You take the write-off with inflation in the future. Guess what? Not only are you paying massive taxes, because taxes are probably going to be sky high then, who really knows, but that's what I'm assuming. But now you got to worry about ugly Irma, your Medicare Part B premium, and your prescription drugs, where right now you pay $174 and change a month for your Medicare Part B. Well, guess what? You're going to get all the way to $250, maybe $350 a month for the rest of your life. So it's not just the here and now. And I say that a lot. Right now, things are a little bit easy, but I want you to go out to when we're a little bit older, right? And if you're younger than that, if you say let's say you're not 73, say you're 63, and then you double your money. I mean, it gets worse and it gets worse and gets worse. So this is why so many people are now realizing, oh my gosh, I got IRMA penalties. There's 8 taxes that you might have to pay depending on how high your income gets based on your IRAs. I have a client that's $4 million in their IRA, and we are working so hard to roll these IRAs to Roth because they're really in big trouble because they got a great pension and Social Security and real estate. And so we're moving based on our tax plan about $250,000 a year for that one client for the next 10 years. Oh yeah. The goal is to get at least half of it out for them because they don't want that $4 million to go to $8 million in 15, 20 years if they're super ultra conservative, and then pass it on to the kids and then give all that work goes back to Uncle Sam's pocket. No, thank you. So part of our tax planning strategy is to see if we roll over $25,000 a year or $50,000 or $100,000, whatever the number is, whatever your goal is, we're going to show it to you. And how many taxes are hitting you while you're doing it? Does it make sense? Because once in a blue moon, it says, it actually doesn't make sense to roll IRAs to a Roth. Listen, the RMDs never go away. You're always going to have to take it. And when you pass away, if you're married, now your spouse has to take that RMD. And guess what? Their taxes go up, their income goes down. So if we can alleviate that tax pressure for the surviving spouse, which we call the widow's penalty, from a dear friend of mine who's a financial advisor who came up with that wonderful term, to then you got the kiddos penalty where the kids are going to pay an even larger tax bill, 35, 45% based on today's rates, not tomorrow's rates. So we got to be very cautious on that. And I'm going to go ahead and put the myth buster out there because people think when I retire, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket. Hello, that is not true. That myth buster is a myth, and the average retiree is in a higher tax bracket. And if you happen to be one of the lucky ones where you're not, then we can bet your spouse will be when you pass away because your tax brackets go up and your deductions go down, and now you've lost some income. So RMD planning is more critical and crucial right now than really ever before. And now we might have a good 6 years where taxes stay down, where people can crush it and start really rolling these over at the rate that we sit today, which would be incredible, Randy.
Well, I learned two great lessons, retirement lessons, one from my father and one from my father-in-law. From my father, don't buy a boat. Okay, that was a good retirement lesson. Don't buy a boat. It's a hole in the water that you throw money into. Yes, it's very, very true. But from my father-in-law, who every April would scream bloody murder, saying that he had to write a check to the government for $30,000 and $40,000. That was because he had a nice pension, he had Social Security, and he had a nice IRA. And he didn't detax it in his years before retirement. So every year he would scream bloody murder, I've got to write another huge check to the government. I didn't think this would happen to me in retirement. So after all that she has said right there, this is the problem. Let's see if we can figure out the solution. That brings us to the number one thing that people are asking this year when it comes to sitting down with retirement planners. Here is Sharon Epperson from CNBC.
Roth conversions saw a 46% increase year over year in the second quarter of 2024, according to Fidelity. Shifting money from a pre-tax IRA or 401k to a Roth IRA can lower taxable income in retirement and provide tax-free growth.
A record number of people have come to people like Charisse this year and said, I see this on the horizon. How can I fix it? So this idea of having systematic withdrawals out of your IRA or 401k and say, I've got $1 million in there. Can we take $50,000 a year, $75,000 a year, $100,000 a year and pay the taxes on it now so I don't have this problem in the future? Charisse, is this a big part of what you've been doing this year as far as planning is concerned?
It's a huge part. I have been on overload trying to do a ton of tax plans, us and our advisors, as many as we can, as fast as we can when we're doing reviews with clients and new people coming in, because I am worried about taxes in the future, 10 years, 20 years, to the surviving spouses, to the kiddos. There's a lot to talk about. And it's interesting. Our tax planning software, CPAs don't have. So what's so neat about it is that it's some of the first visuals you're ever going to see in your life. I'm telling you, I don't know anybody else who does it like this. We're going to show you, if you do nothing and you stay the course, and let's say taxes stay right where they're at today and they never change, what are the taxes to you? What are the taxes to your surviving spouse? And what are the taxes to your heirs based on the rules today? And then we're going to show you a couple scenarios. What if we rolled 25 a year? What if we rolled 50 a year? What is the benefit? And 9 out of 10 times, Randy, there is an average of 800 to 2 million extra left to the beneficiaries in wealth, and we paid a whole lot less in taxes during the next 30 years and after death to the beneficiaries. It is a huge deal. And most people are probably listening saying, you know, I would like to see that, Charisse. I've talked to my CPA. They're not telling me squatski. They're doing my bookkeeping. And they're like, yeah, go ahead and roll $10,000 or $20,000. This is what you'll pay. But it's not just the here and now what you'll pay. I want you to see what it looks like in 10 years, your tax bill, in 20 years and 30 years, and what it looks like to your beneficiaries. And so we have this amazing tax software that does that for us. And we can also talk about in that tax software, do we do donor advised funds? Do we do some of our tax loss harvesting strategies? We do all those things. And here's the funny thing that I never thought was going to happen, Randy. The CPAs are asking us for this because they don't have it. So even if the CPA isn't working with us, a client is finding out, well, CPA wants to see what you're doing because they don't have access to that kind of stuff. Well, I pay a pretty penny for this software, and people are loving it. Our clients, CPAs we've never even heard from, are starting to reach out to us, asking us to run that scenario for their clients. So it's fantastic. And if you haven't rolled an IRA to a Roth yet and you're considering it, it would be worth the free consultation. I have yet to have anybody complain about it. And every single person, except for, I would say over the last month, 2 for me personally, are rolling IRAs to Roths because taxes are on sale. Take advantage of the sale. When shoes are on sale, I go buy 3 pairs of that same shoe. And so I want to talk about the different ways that you can convert IRAs to Roth, or how you can actually contribute to a Roth IRA, because there's different ways to fund these Roths. And the whole purpose of a Roth, let me just reiterate this. Every dollar in a Roth grows tax-free. Any interest in that Roth, as long as you're 59 and a half and older and you've had it for 5 years, all the interest grows tax-free. Now, look at your 401ks and IRAs. All of your contributions, you have to pay taxes 100% based on your ordinary income taxes. And all the contributions your employer put in, 100%. You're paying taxes on it based on ordinary income rates. So it's all fully taxable to you, your surviving spouse, and your kids. Like, you're wasting money by not rolling these IRAs to a Roth on average. So let's talk about different ways to fund a Roth IRA. The first way would be you can contribute to a Roth IRA, right? You can, at any age, you can contribute to a Roth IRA, but you have to have W-2 wages. You have to be getting paid. So, for example, if you're under 50 and you wanted to contribute a max of $7,000 to a Roth IRA, you have to be at least making $7,000 with your employer. So if you make 10, hey, you can put 7 into Roth. If you only make $5,000 at your employer this year, hey, you can only contribute $5,000. But there's also another rule. If you make too much money, Randy, and you hit these thresholds, then you can't contribute to a Roth. But then that leads me to number 2. If that's you and you can't contribute to a Roth, we like doing backdoor Roth IRAs. And it just means, okay, your income's too high. Uncle Sam says the rules are you can't contribute. But if you put it into an IRA, that's $7,000, a non-deductible IRA, so you won't be able to write it off on your tax bill, then day 2, you can convert it to a Roth. So there you have it. There is a backdoor way into a Roth IRA. So it's the second way you can do it in case your income's too high. The third way to contribute to a Roth IRA is to roll over your IRAs that you have now to a Roth IRA. But what you have to do, this is why we're going to show it to you when you come in and see us, you have to pay the taxes on the rollover, right? So that is the third way to do it. And you can do that in your 30s. We do it for 90-year-olds. You can do it at any age. So those are the 3 ways. I truly believe the Roth IRAs are the way of the future if you're trying to protect your legacy. If you go back 20 years ago and you had $1 million and you're like, I always just want to live on the interest, I always want to leave this $1 million to my beneficiaries, that was a true thing back in the day, but now it's not, because an average of 35 to 45% of it's going to not go to your beneficiaries now. It's going to go to Uncle Sam because they can no longer stretch those IRAs. So there's more of a reason to start rolling IRAs to a Roth today, and let's figure out at what rate, how much, and then create a plan from there.
So there's 7 tax brackets, 10, 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, and 37. Those apparently are going to stay the same because Donald Trump has designed that, and he'll probably keep that steady. So the secret here then is if you are in the 22% tax bracket and you want to roll money over, convert money over, you want to make sure that you don't get yourself into the next tax bracket, which puts you into a higher tax liability.
Well, I beg to differ on that comment.
All right, let's talk about it.
Because to roll and hit that number, let's say, I don't want to do the math on radio, but let's say you just roll enough to hit that 22% tax bracket. But you really deep down inside, gosh, I got to do more work. I got to do this faster. I do want to roll more. Randy, it's only 2 pennies more. That's the way to look at it. It's only 2% more. So take advantage of that next tax bracket.
Okay. All right.
22 to 24% to me makes sense. So a lot of people have this thing in their head like, okay, we'll roll just enough over so we don't go over that 22% tax bracket. But why? Why can't we go to 24%? It's only 2% more.
All right. So in that instance, I get it. What if you're going from 24 to 32 or from 24 to 35?
So that's where it changes,
okay.
Right?
All right.
So that's where I switched gears. I said, okay, listen, we can do this much at the 24% tax bracket, but if we do this much more, now we start to get at a higher level. We got to worry about other taxes that come into the picture. Is it worth it? And sometimes it's not. And sometimes for people who have millions in IRAs, it is absolutely worth it. So, and the worth is in the eyes of the beholder, right?
Yeah.
So you also have to believe that to be true. But we're going to show you the math, and we'll show you whether it's at the 12% or the 22 or the 24 or so on and so forth. We're going to show it to you, and you get to decide. And we have such a beautiful, easy way in one page to show this to you.
Well, we have a saying around here that we say every single show and every single commercial, and that is, let's do the math on your retirement. And this is a prime example of where the math comes in. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website. Schedule that complimentary retirement consultation. Yes, we are certainly going to talk about your investments, but let's talk about taxes. It's one of the most neglected parts of retirement planning, but not at Zinnia Wealth. Give us a look at our website, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. Hit the gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. We'll ask you to put in a little information so our team will reach out to you. Or just bypass all that, give us a call, 833-368-3680. Again, 833-368-3680. We'll sit down and have a conversation about your retirement and get the pencil and paper going, and let's do some math to find out exactly what your income's going to be and what your tax liability is going to be, and how can we help. Again, 833-368-3680. We'll take a break, come right back with more Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, zinniawealth.com or 833-368-3680. Well, if you listen to this show for any length of time, you know that Sharice likes Suze Orman, but every now and then she'll say something and Sharice will disagree. We'll see how she feels about this one. Suze Orman was talking about how if you've saved $2 million for retirement, that's chump change. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average retiree spends about $6,000 a month. That's $72,000 a year. The average retiree or retirement couple brings in $5,000 to $6,000 of Social Security. That only leaves about $12,000 a year to pull from their investments. If you add that up over a 25-year retirement, it doesn't even come close to $2 million. So,
yeah, you only need about 500 at that rate.
Exactly. So,
you know, I don't think Susie understands the typical retiree and individual and embracing and embarking in retirement. I saw someone on Facebook or somewhere, and she's like, "Oh, our Bahamas property is demolished. We got a lot of work to do." So I went and Googled it. Yeah, and I didn't know she owned a property in Bahamas, and I looked at it. I went, "Oh, she's a billionaire." Yeah, I don't even know how many millions, but I think it's certainly well over 50 million.
Yeah.
And so she's talking to like the Warren Buffetts of the world, not the typical investor that saved $500 to maybe $4 million in assets. So
let me ask this: is $5,000 to $6,000 a month a common number? I mean, is the government right on that?
Yeah. I will say the average household has about $4,000 to $5,000 a month coming in Social Security. So you're right. If it's $5,000 a month between husband and wife and Social Security, that's $60,000, and you only need $12,000 thereafter if you're looking for a gross income. So this is why we tell people it's not about the number; it's about the income plan. Yeah. And Randy, 1 out of 5 retirees have a written income plan.
Only 1 out of 5. That's not good.
1 out of 5 around the country. And so, how do you create an investment plan and a tax plan without the income plan so that you know how much you need to have saved? Because you could be retired today because you have just enough saved, or you have plenty saved, and even if there's only $500,000. So it is important to work with that financial advisor that understands how this works. Don't listen to all the naysayers. Don't listen to all those talking heads. Create a plan, and that provides confidence, and then you can see it, and then you'll believe it.
We see it and say it all the time. These numbers come out. The number one question is, how much do I need to save for retirement? Everybody wants to know that. But the messages, Sharice, that we're getting from the financial media are 1.2, 1.4, 1.6, 1.8, and then now Suze has cracked the 2 million number. And the fact of the matter is those numbers are not your numbers.
Right.
You need to run your number. Again, here we are. Let's do the math. Exactly. We're right back to our saying and our slogan. I mean, I think we need to do bumper stickers. We need to make sure we need to get Sharice out there talking about this is the number that you need. It's not a number, it's your number. Let's figure out your number.
Yes, you said it perfectly. Let's figure out your number. Let's do the math on your retirement. Let's figure out what your income needs are. Let's figure out the tax plan and what the goal is for your heirs and your estate plan. And we do these reports. We do these plans for free, by the way. So anybody who's like, free, nothing's free. No, we do it for free. And you know why? Because most of you are going to come on board with us. So we decided the people who don't, that's okay. We're just we're running a good business and we're doing the right thing. And we will do these reports for you because it's better to know now than 10 years from now if you could have made some changes today. So again, I'm going to wrap this up, Randy. Thank you all for listening. There's a lot of conversation today. Go back to the rewind button, go to the podcast, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, even on your Apple phones. And we talked a lot about taxes and RMDs, income planning in the election. So tune in. We appreciate you. Happy weekend to you all. Live by design and not by default. And we'll see you here next week.
This has been Retirement Coffee Talk. To find out more about how the strategies we've discussed on this program can build the retirement you've been wanting, call Zinnia Wealth at 352-368-3680 or visit us online at zinniawealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The firm only conducts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded from registration requirements. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Insurance products are offered through Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC, Florida license L078655, and Sharice Rivers, Florida license P037744. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, and Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC are affiliated entities. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this podcast is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Any client experience discussed on this show are unique to that client. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities or other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. References to specific investments should not be construed as being past specific recommendations. The returns for various indices discussed in this podcast do not represent the performance of the firm or any of its advisory clients. Returns do not reflect the impact that advisory fees will have on an investment. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All investment strategies have potential for profit or loss. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a specific investment strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. Historical performance returns for investment indexes and/or categories usually do not deduct transaction and/or custodial charges or advisory fees, which would decrease historical performance results. There are no guarantees that a portfolio will match or outperform a specific benchmark. Investments in fixed income products are subject to liquidity risk, market risk, index rate risk, credit risk, inflation risk, purchasing power risk, and taxation risk. Because bond prices fluctuate continually, their yields change constantly.